Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give our honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Hakwadash. Double honors to the elders, the apostles of the great millstone, and peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel, starting off with the 144,000, which would be the ruling governing body in the kingdom of heaven, which would be all men, 144,000. Also to a lot of the 1/3, which would be men, women, and children that be saved here in America. Right, the 144,000 is the top of the 1/3. 2/3 of all people will be destroyed here in America. Babylon the Great. You also have the rebels that are scattered abroad that will be destroyed, and you have the elect that scattered abroad across the four corners of the earth that will be saved, of who the world ignorantly and willingly calls Black, Hispanic, Native American, Puerto Rican, Dominicans, Jamaican, Haitian, Guatemalans, Panamanians, Cubans, right? We all the Israelites. I'm your brother, Yeremiah. Come back. Get you another quick lesson from endtimeheadlines.org. This is a statue linked to the story of Moses discovered near the Red Sea. So I kind of already read it before I started the video. Basically they say like they found like a statue of Ramses. If you read the story of Exodus, you know what that entails. You know what happened. And everything like that. But this is just proof that the Lord he's showing. He's just showing more and more proof that he is. That's his name. Yah meaning he, Hawa meaning is. That's just really what this is going into. Because right here it says a substantial fragment of ancient statue, right? So it's, we know what happened with the Egyptians. When they went after us, the Lord drowned them. When the Lord used Moses to part the Red Sea, the Lord drowned him. I believe there's evidence of there's evidence of Esau finding fragments and pieces of ancient chariots. There's different forms of chariots, not just the UFOs, but the vehicles that they used to race in and to move around on when they had horses and donkeys on. There's evidence of that, that's underwater, right, that Esau has found, right? But it says a substantial fragment of ancient statue believed to represent Ramses II, the powerful ruler many scholars link to the pharaoh in the book of Exodus, has been uncovered near the Nile Delta, right? It says the discovery unfolded at Tel Faroun in Egypt's eastern Nile Delta, right? It says northwest of the Red Sea as part of excavations directed by the Supreme Council of Antiquities, right? It says the unearthed piece, right, encompassing the legs base of the colossal figure stands roughly 7 feet tall and weighs an estimated 5 to 6 tons. So a ton is 1,000 or 2,000 if I'm not mistaken. Though weathered and damaged, surviving details align it with royal sculptures from Egypt's New Kingdom era spanning approximately 1550 to 1070 BC. Right. And like I said, this is all proving that the Lord, he exists, man. Those stories in the Bible ain't just stories. They're not fairy tales. They're not fiction. They're true. Right? And we don't need Esau to uncover anything. We already know. We believe, through faith, first and foremost. But let me get this scripture. It says Psalms 85 in verse 11. It says, truth shall spring out of the earth, and righteousness shall look down from heaven. You see? And that's what's happening, man. Literally, truth springing out of the earth. Evidence of what happened in the Bible, what happened in the scriptures, And I believe a few years back, they claimed they had found, evidence of the ark, during the time of Noah. It was around, I think, the land of Turkey, And I think I did a lesson too, maybe last year, the year before, about them claiming they found the Ark of the Covenant, which we know that ain't going to be found until the Lord comes back. I believe it talks about that in like 2nd Maccabees or 1st Maccabees. Brothers and elders can correct me on that. But the Lord is showing himself, man, through signs, through different things being exposed every day. This devil on one hand will still try to cover up stuff because he's, that's his job, is to beat the devil, to deceive. But we're in a time that where all things are being exposed and it's being put out in the open and you can't hide. Right? This is Luke 12 and verse 2. It says, "For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known." Right? Let me read some more into this. It says, experts suspect the statue originated in Ramses, the grand capital built by Ramses II, right? Which really the Israelites built that entire place. We built that up. Read about that in Exodus, the first chapter, right? Before being relocated to the site known anciently as Emet, where it is possibly incorporated into a temple complex, right? It says officials overseeing the dig noted that the fragment may have once formed part of a much larger sculptural group, right? Possibly depicting the king alongside Egyptian deities, right? Researchers highlight that further analysis of the stone and carving techniques could reveal more about its journey across the region. You see? And this proves that the Lord, we know that the Egyptians are not in power today, man. There's people over there that, that are over there. You got a lot of Ishmaelites, you got a lot of different, the original Egyptians ain't even really in their land over there today. Like I said, it's a mix of people, and we know during the time of the Greeks, Alexander the Great took over that land, right? And it's been, it ain't been the same ever since, right? But like I said, man, the Lord is showing you, every day that He exists, man. And He's dealing with the elect, right? But He's also showing these scholars, these archaeologists, these damn, Edomites, that He is, and there's nothing they can do about it. It's not. He's not just showing them through judgment. It's through things that they find too. Because this devil, what does it say? He accomplishes a diligent search. And I believe that scripture is really going into him trying to him trying to cause harm and cause conflict. When you read that, but this devil, these people know that the Lord exists, man. They know these things, man. They understand it, but through their pride, through their wickedness, they're not gonna just come out and outright say it, right? Because they're basically, if they're telling you that, certain by them telling you that this is true, that it happened, that they got evidence, they're telling you that the Israelites are real people, that they exist, right? But you got to come all the way with it, hey, don't expect the devil to do that, That's what the Lord raised up His elect for, right? It's to preach this gospel and to break down the scriptures to you the right way, right? But it says right here, it says Ramses II, who reigned from 1279 to 1213 BC, commanded vast armies and left an indelible mark on Egyptian history. Historians frequently connect him to the Exodus narrative because the Bible references Hebrew slaves constructing the city of Ramses, exactly, widely identified with his capital. You see? But like I said, with everything being uncovered and everything being exposed, the Lord's showing you. We're in a time now to where these things are all being known, right? And there's nothing nobody can do about it. You can still claim you don't believe. We don't give a damn. It ain't for the whole world to believe. It ain't for you to, say, oh yeah, I identify with that. It's not for you. This is only for the Israelites. The real people of the Lord, right? Which are you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, right? If you read, like I said, in Exodus, the first chapter, it talks about we built treasured cities for Ramses, right? Let me see. Yep. This is Exodus 1:11, right? It says, therefore, they did set over them taskmasters, right, to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasured cities, Pithom and Ramses. You see? But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, because they're the Lord's people. You can't do away with the Israelites. That ain't how it works, right? And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. So they had a problem with us because the more and more they kept trying to, mess with us and take us out, the more and more the Lord was dealing. The Lord was having mercy. That's why, what is that, Malachi 3:6? I believe it is. Let me see. It says, "For I am the Lord, I change not, therefore you sons of Jacob are not consumed." Right? The Lord made a promise going all the way back to Abraham. Hey, his seed is gonna be good forever, man. You ain't gonna be able to do away with the Israelites. Even if you go to the book of was it Jeremiah 31, right? I believe it is. The Lord said if these nations could go up into space and go all the way to the bottom of the sea, they could go to these places and search them out fully and tell you the exact estimations and what's exactly up there or down there, then the Lord will do away with it, but they can't. It's impossible. Let me see. It might be in Jeremiah 32. Let me see. Salakia. Jeremiah 30. I'm scrolling right past it. I know I am. It's Salakia, Jake. It's in one of these chapters. It's in one of these chapters. Yeah, it's in this chapter, yeah. I just was thinking it was starting at 31. Let's start at verse 35. Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 35. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, which giveth the sun for a light by day, right? And the ordinance of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from me," right? Right? If the sun or the moon disappears pretty much, or if it's not there, right, then the seed of Israel shall cease from being a nation before me forever. That ain't gonna ever happen, though. You read the book of Ecclesiastes, the first chapter tells you that the earth abideth forever. Right? Thus said the Lord, if heaven above can be measured and the foundations of the earth searched out, right? This tells you that they go into, that proves that they didn't go into space and, how could you measure the distance of these different planets if you didn't go there? That doesn't even make sense. Right? "I will also cast off the seed of Israel for all that they have done, said the Lord." Right? But they can't do that. These Edomites can't do that. These other nations can't do that. Right? The Lord said, if the sun was able to not be there anymore, or the moon, or if you was able to go into space or to measure the foundations of the earth, if you was able to do that, then the Lord will cast us off. But the Lord ain't going to do that. Right? And there's going to be more and more uncoverings of things that happened, during the times of the ancient prophets, man. Our people back then. There's going to be more and more findings. And there's more than this, right? But this is just, like I said, showing you that we're in the time of the end, man. And it's just proof that the Israelites exist, and we're real people, right? I mean, I'm going to read some more on this. Let me see. It says, while the sacred text does not name the pharaoh directly, the geographic and chronological ties keep the association alive in scholarly debate and popular imagination. This find arrives amid ongoing fascination with Ramses II, and in 2024, archaeologists recovered a bronze sword bearing his markings from a military outpost, underscoring his heir's military might. Right? It says, Oxford Egyptologist Elizabeth Froude, commenting on that earlier discovery, observed an object to bear the cartridges of Ramses II will suggest to me that it belonged to someone of relatively high rank. Well, of course, he was a pharaoh, he was a ruler, right? Who's the modern day pharaoh today? Esau, Edom. And just like how the Lord destroyed them, and they're no longer, ruling, they're no longer a superpower, the Lord's going to do Edomites the same way. But, it's going to be a way worse judgment, because this place, America, is going to be burnt with nuclear missiles, and ain't nobody going to live over here again. So what happened to them it's going to be a similar thing, but it's going to be a lot worse, because, and you Edomites, there ain't going to be no more you eventually. It tells you about, let me see, destroyed. Let me see if I can find it. Memorial to cease. Yep. This is I started at Sirach 10 and verse 14. It says, "The Lord hath cast down the thrones of the proud princes," right? The ancient pharaohs, and set up the meek in their stead, right? The Lord hath plucked up the roots of the proud nations and planted the lowly in their place, which really that's going to the Israelites. And that's going to happen again. But this time it's going to be forever. You know? It says, "The Lord overthrew the countries of the heathen and destroyed them to the foundations of the earth." You see that? To the foundations, right? Didn't they unearth it? They digged it up. Isn't that what it said? That's in the foundations of the earth. You know? He destroyed them that bad to where, you know, some evidence is gone. Obviously, you know, you still got the pyramids, and obviously it's evidence that ancient Egypt, you know, existed. But, you know, some things are lost, and some things are being uncovered still. Right? It says the Lord overthrew. Matter of fact, I'm reading verse 17. It says, "He took some of them away and destroyed them, and have made their memorial to cease from the earth." So it's almost like some nations never even ruled. You know, that's how bad it has become. And the Lord did that to us too on a certain level, because the Lord said that He would make us as wandering stars, right? You know, people weren't gonna know who we was. I forgot what book that was in, but that's what the Lord's gonna do to this place. And this time, America, Babylon the Great. We ain't gonna be uncovering. We ain't gonna be digging and seeing who was ruling. We gonna already know all these things. We the Lord's people, so we're gonna know. You know. But I just wanted to do a quick video on this, man. We just came out of the Passover, Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread like a month ago, you know. So this is all, you know, linking up with what time we in, you know. The Lord is showing Himself. It's not just chariot sightings, you know. And this devil, he know he got a short time. He's probably trying to destroy stuff. That's what this devil does. He's known for destroying stuff, changing the images of stuff, iconoclasm, you know, hiding history, you know. But this is only proving it. This is only proving that the Bible is true. So what's the point of you coming out with this story? Right? You can't hide yourself. You're done. You know? Let me get this in 2nd Esdras 6. Right? I feel like I've been bringing this out a lot. 2nd Esdras 6. And verse 27 says, "For evil should be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. As for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome. And the truth, which have been so long without fruit, shall be declared." You see? And the evil is being put out, and deceit is being quenched. All this, you know, you small has been exposed. People over there in the land of Israel that's claiming to be the real people of the Lord, everybody knows that you're not, right? And you don't have no connection to the ancient Israelites that were in the land of Egypt. You don't look like the people, right? You couldn't even have been in the land. You would have got burnt up, you know? But, hey, the Lord has allowed faith to flourish amongst His elect, because that's who's going to be saved, the elected Israelites, you know? So you just proving more and more, like I said, of who the Lord's people is, you know? So I just want to do a quick video on this, man. Hey, we almost up out of here, man. Keep believing, keep the faith. I'm talking to myself first and foremost. You know, the Lord's coming back soon, man. You know, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, by YASHAMIAHLA, by Issachar Mexicans. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the millstone. Until next time, I want to say, AHDAWAM, Shalom.